Hello, everyone. I'm kind of laid over here out on the road. Got to take some time off. 34-hour restart according to my logbook and the DOT. So I'm here in a cheap motel room. It's not too bad. It's just cheap. That's fine. Uh, but I got bored. There's nothing on television as usual. They don't put anything good on television anymore. So I decided to make a video, put it on YouTube, Facebook. Um, Probably my Minds and Gab account as well, if they'll let me. Um, so, yeah, I've been keeping up with what's going on. I've been reading articles on the news, and I kind of put together this little uh, sample, this collage of articles um, to illustrate a point, and I'm not sure, a point that I'm not sure most people are aware of. I don't think a lot of people are aware of what's going on now. This group of articles, it's at the first it's going to seem like it's political. It's not. To be fully transparent, I did vote for Donald Trump. I don't consider myself a Republican or Democrat. I'm kind of, I don't like either party really. I think they're all a bunch of crooks and liars. Yeah, I want to say that up front to be fully transparent here, but it's going to seem like it's political, but it's not really. This affects everyone. So yeah, let's get started with the articles. From the New York Times: How banks could control gun sales if Washington won't. Here's an idea. What if the financial industry, credit card companies like Visa, MasterCard, American Express, credit card processors like First Data, and banks like JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo were effectively set new rules for the sales of guns in America? Collectively, they have more leverage over the gun industry than any lawmaker, and it wouldn't be hard for them to take a stand. PayPal, Square, Stripe, Apple Pay announced years ago that they would not allow their services to be used for the sales of firearms. Okay, so they're wanting to use banks. We deposit our money into the bank, and the bank says, well, here's how you're able to use it. You can't use it to buy legal things that we just don't want you to buy. And credit card companies, of course, that's kind of a loan, and okay, I mean, you can't force a bank to loan you money if they don't want to. Granted, that's not as big a deal to me as the banks, though. This from The Hill, published this year. New York asks credit card companies to reassess the risk of gun sales. In other words, New York's not wanting credit card companies to allow people to use their cards to buy guns. The end of car ownership. The Wall Street Journal this year. Cars are going to undergo a lot of changes in the coming years. One of the biggest, you probably won't own one. Thanks to ride sharing and the looming introduction of self-driving vehicles, the entire model of car ownership is being upended and very soon may not look anything like it has for the past century. All right, basically what they're saying is that, with self-driving cars, some people will choose to buy a car and then like rent it out to other people. And if it's a self-driving car, they can't tear it up. But another trend is companies popping up that will allow you to drive their cars. In other words, you'll have an app on your phone or something. You push that app, and a car comes, picks you up, and takes you where you want to go. Therefore, you don't need to own a car anymore. You've got that app, sort of like Uber, but it's just a car pulls up with no driver in it. And so, yeah, most people won't own cars in the future, according to this. Los Angeles Downtown News. Vehicle car sharing service brings a new kind of drive time to downtown. So, see, they're already popping up with these companies. They own the cars, and you just get it to drive or get in and drive it wherever you want to go and then leave it, and somebody else gets it. From the Washington Post, what the U.S. can learn from India's move toward a cashless society. No more money like they're showing here in India. Basically, what the Indian government did is it set up an identification system, kind of like what we have a social security number. Well, this is based on more than that. But they set up an identification system for each citizen and then created accounts so that that person has that account tied to their identity, and that's what they use to buy and sell. Everything will obviously be on record where every dollar of your money went. So, like giving money to charity, like, paying tithes to your local church, or being a member of a club or civic organization, all of that will be on record. Um, if you wanted to buy something directly from a friend, hey, I like that let's say that gun you've got. Can I buy it? Yeah, here. I'll take $500 for it. Okay, here. No, you can't do that. Well, you could do it, but it's tracked through the government. I mean, it's on record that you did that. So it's not only private companies who are trying to determine how we spend our money and what we spend our money on. It's also the government, in this case, the state of New York or the city of New York, trying to pressure these companies into dictating to us how we can spend our money. And we're not going to have our own money anymore. It's all going to be in these accounts controlled by these private companies or controlled by the government. And we're not going to have cars anymore. We're going to have to try to get a car from, these private companies because we don't own one anymore. This from Fox News. NBC under fire after smearing Christian organization as a hate group. On Tuesday night, June 11th, Attorney General Jeff Sessions gave a speech to the members of the Alliance Defending Freedom, a religious freedom group. The ADF is assisting the Supreme Court case involving Jack Phillips, a Colorado baker who refused to bake a gay wedding cake. Major networks are enraged. In headlines for ABC, in headlines for both ABC and NBC, they call the ADF an anti-LGBT hate group. From The Guardian, U.S. evangelical preachers should be banned from entering the UK, critics say. Opposition grows to the visit by Franklin Graham, who is accused of hate speech for remarks about Islam and gay people. I'll let you read that one on your own, but basically, espousing Christian beliefs is now considered hate speech, and therefore, The case for censoring hate speech, published on Huffington Post 2013. Now, this is a very interesting article. I highly recommend that everyone read this because it just gives you kind of a look inside the mindset of the people who have these ideas. But there's something very important to what we're talking about here. American free speech jurisprudence relies on the assumption that speech is merely an extension of a thought and not an action. If we consider it an action, then say that we should combat hate speech with more positive speech, it is an absurd proposition. The speech has already done the harm, and no amount of support will defray the victims' impressions that they are not truly secure in this society. See, this is part of speech is a form of violence. Here's an article from Psychology Today: Is political conservatism a mild form of insanity? And the author goes on to make the case that yes, it is. Here's another article from Psychology Today: Conservatism as a mental illness. Republican polls have recently exhibited 10 telltale signs of mental illness. Go down through here and look real quick. See, here's I'm not crazy. I'm not just crazy. I'm a Republican. Delusions, climate change. Climate is not changing. A denial, humans did not evolve. Hallucination, God ordained me to be president. Disordered thinking, being for small government that's huge in the bedroom. Being anti-contraception and anti-abortion. Anger, Newt Gingrich's perpetual scout. I mean, this is the kind of evidence they used to back up this article. Again, I'm not trying to dispute the article. I'm just saying here it is. This is a major psychological publication, dealing in the field of treatment of mental illness, and they're labeling conservatism as a mental illness. So just take of that what you will. The label of hate speech doesn't mean much to us here in the United States because we have the First Amendment for now. But over in other parts of the world, over in Europe, hate speech is punishable. You can go to jail. You can receive fines. I mean, just look up the guy who thought it was funny to teach his wife or his girlfriend's pug to do a Nazi salute. He made a video about it, thinking it was hilarious. And now he's facing jail time because of that. Then you have, well, what I would call a trade publication almost. Psychology Today, a group of psychiatrists and psychologists labeling a certain political point of view as mental illness. Hate speech against the law. Oh, you believe that you're mentally ill? How far are they going to go with that? And this is going to be more relevant as we go on. It gets scarier. USA Today, you will get chipped eventually. I love how they, be a good idea to get chipped, or getting chipped is a great thing. No, you will. I love that. You will get chipped. It's just a matter of time. This will go beyond paying with your smartphone instead. Chipped customers would simply wave their hands in lieu of Apple Pay and other mobile payment systems. Not a GPS tractor. The embedded chip is not a GPS tractor, which is what many critics initially feared. However, analysts believe that future chips will track our every move. From Wired.com, published in 2012, CIA chief will spy on you through your dishwasher. With the rise of the smart home, you'd be sending tagged geolocated data that a spy agency can intercept in real time when you use the lighting app on your phone to adjust your living room's ambiance. Items of interest will be located, identified, monitored, and remotely controlled through technologies such as radio frequency identification, sensor networks, tiny embedded servers, and energy harvesters, all connected to the next generation internet using abundant, low-cost, and high-powered computing. Petraeus allowed that these household spy devices change our notion of secrecy and prompt a rethink of our notions of identity and secrecy. ABC News, 9 household products that may be spying on you, published in 2013. I knew about the televisions and cable boxes and, satellite boxes and all that. Yeah, that everyone pretty well knows about that, kind of like your telephone. But the things that most people don't think about is like your dishwasher, your washing machine, your dryer, your refrigerator, and some things I didn't even know about. Pacemakers and things like that. That's listed on here as one of the things that they can use to spy on you. So, like I said, this was reported back in 2013. Imagine what they can do now. Here's one from NPR. Careful, Alexa is listening. I guess it was a little segment on the radio show. You probably listened to it there. TV commercial for Amazon's Alexa speaker. A guy tells it to order cat food, and the owner filed a complaint saying their smart speaker heard that ad and ordered cat food. The way the Alexa thing works, it sits over and it listens for you to give it a command. It's always listening. It has to be in order to hear you say, "Hey Alexa," it has to. So the idea that no, it's not always listening. Well, yeah, it is. It kind of has to work. That's how it works. Anything that can be hooked to the internet, whether wireless or through a wire, can be hacked by anyone who has the knowledge to hack it. That can mean some guy sitting in his basement or sitting in a government building somewhere. So, I mean, this is not, people want to laugh at this like it's some kind of joke or, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It's not. If it's hooked to the internet, it can be hacked. This idea that they're watching us through our appliances, do I think that there's someone sitting at the CIA right now watching me through the camera on my laptop here? No, probably not. But is it possible that someone somewhere could be hack into my camera on my laptop and see me? Yeah, well, okay, that's not a real comfortable thought, but what's the big deal behind that? I mean, what can they really do with it? Well, if they could hack into something like your brand new refrigerator that can look inside of it and see what's there and have a video camera on the outside where you can talk, FaceTime someone on it, then they can hack into that camera and see if you're at home. Watch and see if somebody comes into the kitchen. If it's where they know, if your television's on, if the lights are on in your house, is your washing machine and dryer running? Has it been turned on in a little while? That sort of thing. They can figure this out. Well, if someone can figure that out in order to rob you, then Other people can use this to monitor you, the cameras and the microphones and all these new appliances and everything. I know it sounds crazy, but it is what it is. And not only that, they're going to have a chip implanted in you somewhere. That we're going to do away with using money and credit cards. The little chip in the credit card now. We'll do away with that. We'll have it in our hand or something where we just put our hand up there and it pays for it. And one day this chip will be able to GPS locate you. From digital trends, crime predicting AI isn't science fiction. It's about to roll out in India. Again, India. But, they talk about it here. Where a version of this, or a more simple version of this, is already used in places like New York and London. They can track your face. They facial recognition. They know where you go in the city, and they can track your license plate on your cars. Here we go. It's already common for law enforcement in cities like London, New York, to employ facial recognition and license plate matching as part of video camera surveillance. It says right here they'll use micro expressions, minuscule twitches, and mannerisms that can belie a person's nefarious intentions, such as telltale signs are so small they can elude an experienced detective, but not the unblinking eye of AI. In New Orleans, mayor has proposed a $40 million crime-fighting surveillance plan, which includes networking together municipal cameras with the live feeds from private webcams operated by businesses and individuals. Here's another one from 2015, the International Business Times. China to use big data to rate citizens in social credit system. How good a citizen are you? China hopes to answer that question for every one of its citizens with a numerical rating system based on financial standing, criminal record, and social media behavior. A new translation of the government's plans for so-called social credit system sheds light on how China aims to utilize big data to hold all citizens accountable for financial decisions as well as moral choices. Accelerating the construction of a social credit system is an important basis for comprehensively implementing the scientific development view and building a harmonious social society. In other words, everybody agrees and gets along. Important significance for strengthening the sincerity consciousness of the members of society. The guiding ideology, the name of the subsection in the memo, states that a key principle of the system is government promotion. If friends have a poor lending reputation, this reflects badly on the person, just as prolonged playing of video games reports. So you can see there, right there, it's not going to just judge you based on what you do, but it's going to judge you based on who your friends are. The equivalent would be, if I'm friends with someone who filed bankruptcy, is that going to reflect bad on my credit score where I can't get a loan? Well, this social credit thing, yeah. CBS this morning, China's behavioral monitoring system bars some from travel and purchasing property. The government says it's trying to purify society by rewarding people who are trustworthy and punishing those who are not. So like the credit scores most Americans have based on how they handle their finances, Chinese citizens are getting a social credit score based on everything from whether they pay their taxes on time to how they cross the street to what they post online. How does it know how you cross the street? Oh, that's right. This guy right here, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but he was barred from flying because he was deemed untrustworthy. He's a journalist who was ordered by the court to apologize for a series of tweets he wrote and was then told his apology was insincere. I can't buy property. My child can't go to private school. You feel you're being controlled by the list all the time. Okay, so he said something on Twitter that the government or someone didn't like. It's a good thing, one Chinese woman said. There should be punishment for people who can't behave. Saying something that someone else doesn't like online is not behaving. Fraud, tax evasion, and smoking in non-smoking areas can drop drop it. In other words, your score. If a score gets too low, a person can be banned from buying plane and train tickets, real estate, cars, and even high-speed internet. It has created smart cameras for the government that can help catch criminals, but also track average citizens. In several big cities in China, including here in Shanghai, the government is even tracking jaywalkers. Cameras record them going through intersections, zero in on their face, then publicly shame them on nearby video screens. Digital trends. We're closer to China's disturbing social credit system than you realize. Have you ever heard the saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? In other words, you spend time with people, you become just like them. So if they're doing bad things, obviously you're doing bad things. Or if they're, not trustworthy, obviously you're not trustworthy. Or let's just say if they're deemed not trustworthy, obviously you're not trustworthy either. This person seems to be taking a dim view of this social credit system. Don't think you can get away without playing either. I think also there is an issue if a person can't be found online in any way, so a happy medium is required. Not being discoverable online could mean that a person has something to hide, more mundanely, but crucially, it might also simply leave a person out in the digital cold. For the generation going to college and getting jobs, it suggests not being very digitally savvy if you have no presence online. In other words, you can't get out of this. You can't shield yourself from it. The idea behind FICO scores, that's your credit score, that we use to determine whether you can get a loan or not, dates back to the 1950s before it was ultimately introduced in 1989. Today, there's a wealth of information that can be gathered about users that could not possibly be known about in the 1980s. What a person likes online, what they buy, where they buy it, who they socialize with, what they do in their homes. All of it can increasingly be gathered and combined through using smart machine learning tools. From Wired, inside China's vast new experiment in social ranking. I'm not going to go into this one very far either, but there's some good information in there. For the Chinese Communist Party, social credit is an attempt at a softer, more invisible authoritarianism. The goal is to nudge people towards behaviors ranging from energy conservation to obedience to the party. In other words, the Communist Party. Samantha Hoffman, a consultant with the International Institute for Strategic Studies in London, who is researching social credit, says that the government wants to preempt instability that might threaten the party. Goes into more of what this stuff knows about you. At 1 p.m. on the afternoon of August 26, I rented an Ofo brand bike outside of Shanghai's former French concession and rode north, parking it across from a temple. It knows that at 1:24 p.m. I bought a snack in the mall next to the temple. We already have the infrastructure in place to implement a system like what China has. We already have the microphones and the cameras in our cities, in public buildings, in our houses, in our cars. It's already here. All they got to do is put the final touches on it, and we will have the same system as what's being described in those articles here. Look back over everything we've just talked about, everything I've just talked about, and all of these news articles from mainstream media sources. This is not from some blog. This is not from Alex Jones or some conspiracy theorist. It's mainstream media. They already have the capacity to watch us in our homes, to track our cars through the GPS and the navigation system and all of that. Track our cell phones, and they're wanting them to be able to track us by putting something under our skin, a chip that can be identifies us as being, that's Jack Barnes. Okay, it identifies where we go. It identifies who we spend time with, any time of the day or night. They already want to criminalize things like being a Christian or owning guns. So what's going to happen? You say a prayer around the dinner table with your family, and the next thing you know, you can't buy property. Your social credit score drops. You can't rent a car. You don't own a car anymore. You have to rent one, or one of these sharing services, and that service, oh, we don't, we're being pressured like the credit card companies to not do business with certain people, to not allow certain people to buy things. And oh, here's something else. You want to go to church? Oh, well, just like the credit card companies, you can't use a credit card company to buy a gun. Well, you can't use one of these cards to go to church because that's bad. We're that close. I mean, I'm not, someone tell me where I'm wrong. Someone tell me where I've stretched it too far, that I've gone overboard with it, because we're that close. Something as simple as saying a prayer around the dinner table could cause you to lose your job. Like I said, you can't buy anything. Listen, that one guy, his kid couldn't even get into a good school because he said something on Twitter that the government or some individual reported him to the government, whichever. Someone didn't like it. He was ruled by a judge. He had to apologize. You say you get online and you start looking up Bibles or something like that. Next thing you know, you get a knock on the door. The cops are there to take you away. You show up at a political rally, for a conservative candidate, a libertarian candidate, a Republican candidate, whatever, and you're tracked there, and they know you were there, and it lowers your social credit score. And not only that, once your social credit score drops, your friends are gone because they can't be associated with you anymore. It'll lower their score. And then what happens when it lowers your score and you don't have cash anymore? You got that government account, and all of a sudden that's frozen. You can't get your money.